Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I am Gunner Eos, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. Tonight, I am here with Mr. BlankaKong and Mr. Esoteric, and tonight's episode is going to be game reveal trailers. They're going to be our favorites, some that lived up to the hype, some that kind of misled and turned out to be bait and switches. But we're going to talk about gameplay reveals. You know, everybody knows trailers for new games are a game's first impression. They try to make it hype. They try to make you pre-order it immediately after the trailer drops. Some of these, you know, like we said, some of these actually ended up being representative of the actual video game, and some of them that we're going to talk about, not so much. So this was just a topic I came up with. I was watching another stream, and they brought up the topic. I figured, you know, this be pretty interesting because in our little group, in our group chats and whatnot, we talk about, you know, sometimes, as you guys know from our videos, we watch things like E3 and the Video Game Awards, and they do a lot of reveal trailers there. And you probably heard in our reactions, you know, we kind of get first impressions on a reveal trailer, like, oh, this shit is just, there's no gameplay, where's the gameplay, or it looks pretty good. So I figured, you know what, let's just make that an official podcast topic. And that brought us to tonight. So that's the gist of it. So I will start off with my first one, and we're going to start off with one that did not live up to the hype, was still a mediocre game, but if you looked at the trailer and you looked at the finished product, two very different things. That game is The Division. That launched on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox. I bought it for the PlayStation 3. And, you know, I was never huge into Tom Clancy.
PS4, right?
Was it PS4? Sorry, PS4.
Yeah, PS4.
All the PSs blend together. I still think PS2 is the latest thing that came out. Anyway, that's besides the point. Thank you for that. PS4, I got it for the PlayStation 4. Again, I was never the biggest Tom Clancy fan. I read some Tom Clancy books in the past. I played SOCOM. SOCOM 2 is was my first online shooter game on, you know, not Call of Duty. It was SOCOM 2 for me.
Amazing
so,
game.
Yeah, it was great for what it was. It was fucking crazy. But so I knew a little bit about the Tom Clancy kind of like universe. I knew what it was. It was like you know, military, I don't want to say sim, but it was just like historical fiction. It was different scenarios involving real world governments and military. So when I saw this Division one, what really kind of drew me in was the fact that the game took place in New York City. So I, you know, was born and live in New York City. And, you know, it was, at the time, it was cool to see a game literally taking place on streets that I walked down, that I know. They showed a scene where they were walking, and they walked past Madison Square Garden. I'm like, oh, that looks like a pretty, you know, solid representation of MSG. So that was an immediate hook for me personally. Then I saw the gameplay. There was like some type of scenario. New York wasn't looking so hot. Gunshots in the street. I know, you know, depending on what neighborhood you're in, it's just a Saturday night. But I mean, you know, this was kind of Manhattan, so it was kind of a bigger deal. So then they showed the actual gameplay, and when the game comes out, I always mock this because I hate when they try to stimulate fake friendships, fake gamer groups. So the trailer shows like they're investigating a store, and like you just hear all this like really fake banter. But I'm trying to block that out, and I'm looking at the actual gameplay, and it looks pretty. It looked good. It was like they were roaming the streets. They had a lot of futuristic looking stuff, like they would examine civilians and they can tell that they were infected with something. They could examine cars and see if they've been looted and whatnot. And at the time, I was led to believe that that was what you can do in the real game. They meet up with another friend and they go assault a police station that's been taken over by criminals, I guess, some gang. And then that's when they show the gameplay. So they show the gunplay, which looked like pretty standard, pretty good third-person cover-based shooting. They showed the gadgets. They had a medic and 2 like assault characters. So the medic had a group heal, which immediately interested me because I usually play support roles. So I was like, oh shit, a group heal. That's fucking cool. I know what I'm gonna play. They had like a portable gun turret that one of the guys put on the roof of the car that kind of act as autonomous fire support. Thought that was pretty cool. Then they had a drone. One of their homies came in, he logged in late, and he deployed a drone which provided air support. And me and many other people that saw that trailer was like, wow, that's cool. You can have a fire support drone. Spoiler alert, that never appeared. That was not a perk you could use in the game. There is a sequel, The Division 2, that is still not a thing you can use, even in the sequel, so that just never existed. I heard interviews that they said it was too hard to do in a real time scenario because this game was a live service game, so they it needed an online connection. It was too hard to sync. Blah blah blah. Sounds like an excuse to me. So whatever. They clear out the police station. They get some sweet loot, and they go to extract. And then it showed it had PvP elements because they were being attacked by other players. So it kind of let you know that there was going to be PvP in the game, which there was. There was PvP, but all like the way it looked, the way you interacted with your environment, when the character kind of was crawling past the police car, the car door was slightly ajar, and he ended up closing it to pass through. Like all of that made it seem like the world was a lot more interactable than what the actual game turned out to be. The actual game was not like the trailer at all. It was still representative of the game. It was still the same storyline, the same premise, but all that that interactivity that you saw, all like the scanning and the being able to pick up vital signs of the enemy by scanning them, that was never a thing. It was never a thing. So when I played the game, I was like, this is still fun. I still like it, but I felt pretty misled thinking there were things in the game that weren't actually there and were never there, even in subsequent updates and expansions to the game. So, yeah, that's my first one. Division looked good. Not the most egregious bait and switch. It's no Anthem, but it was still kind of there. And this is not the first time Ubisoft has gotten caught with their reveal trailers. Watch Dogs was another one, and we all know how Watch Dogs turned out. So I think Division was not as egregious as Watch Dogs, but there was still stuff that was shown in that quote unquote gameplay reveal trailer that didn't transition to the actual full retail release. But that's my first one. A little bit of a bait and switch, but not too bad. So I'll pass it off to one of you gentlemen who wants to take it and talk about a review trailer.
Okay. I guess I will go next. Since we're doing the whole bait and switch thing, Gunner, I guess this one I would have to say shout out to Kong because he know that I've had issues with this particular game. Not so much the game, well, some of which the gameplay, but I've had issues with a couple of things about this game, and it was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Now, for those of you guys know, I mean, of course, Gunna and Kong knows, but I'm play pretty much a lot of fighting games. Pretty adept to some degree, not pro level or whatever, but decent enough. And back when this was announced, I saw the whole trailer and everything, and I was extremely hyped because I grew up on Street Fighter, I grew up on Tekken. These are two really big fighting game franchises. They've been around since the 90s, and they're making new ones as we speak about it in the podcast. And I've always thought, what would happen if they were to like cross paths, if they were to do like a merge game, because they did it with KOF. Street Fighter has done it with KOF. They've done it with Marvel. Well, like an ensemble of Marvel characters. They've done it with Street Fighter.
Tatsunoko.
Tatsunoko, exactly. Like the list goes on and on and on. Like we've seen a lot of Street Fighter characters in other franchises, um, and I was always hoping for either Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. I mean, or Tekken, excuse me. And Tekken makes the better option because it's more akin to what Street Fighter represents. Like Mortal Kombat is way too violent. It's out of the realm of what Street Fighter is as a game. So when I saw the trailer, I was extremely hyped. They had Ryu and Chun Li versus Nina and Kazuya, and it was just amazing. So basically, it was a 2-on-2 style type game, which made it even better because there's so many different mix and matches that you can have, so many like combo variations, things of that nature. And I was extremely hyped, very intuitive. The super interactions were amazing. They had one where Kazuya would summon Nina, and then Nina would come do a couple of like jabs to Ryu, and then she would hold him in place while Kazuya does his like spinning dragon punch move or whatever, and that was amazing. And then Ryu retaliated with Chung Li jumping over his shoulder, going into her, lightning legs super, which I really love, by the way, because for those of you who don't know, I'm like a huge Chung Li fan. And then she did her spinning bird kick, pushing Kazuya into Ryu's Shinku Hadoken. So I got really hyped for that. And the game, for the most part, represented most of those things. The super interactions they did not really get into. They kind of dropped that, I guess, because for each super to kind of be introed into like each character, like how would they correspond Zangief interacting, like working with Chung Li versus like Bison working with Kazuya. All those interactions they would have to work on and animate. So they threw that out. But here's the biggest issue that I had with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. One was all the story trailers making sense, but the gameplay did not, so to speak. Like you had where do I even start, honestly? Okay, so when they were promoting Street Fighter Cross Tekken, they had a bunch of mini trailers that kind of portrayed mini story plots within each trailer. So I'll give a couple, for example. You had Kazuya reaching out to Jin, and basically they were searching for like the Satsuni no Hado, that's like evil Ryu's form or whatever. It's pretty much what Akuma uses as well. And with Kazuya having like a demon form, he was like searching for more power, this and the third. Jin was looking to kind of relinquish that because he has the devil gene as well. And Kazuya finds Ryu, he's stepping on his face, and then a big brawl broke out with like Ryu, Ken, Nina, Kazuya, and that sequence was amazing. They also had another one with M Bison storming. I believe at that time it was the Mishima Zaibatsu because Jin had it at that time. And him and Jury stormed the base. Shayu and Jin were being attacked by them, and then Jin.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jin unleashed his devil gene, and it ended right there. So basically each trailer kind of portrayed what each character was about and what their story plots were and things of that nature. And then come the game time with the story, it was about this cube. It was pretty much like Transformers, some all spark shit. It was like, what the hell is this? Like, you guys had everything in place. Like, each character could have had their own story arc against each character. Even freaking Rufus, who was introduced in Street Fighter 4, he had beef with Bob from Tekken because he thought that Ken was trying to be fat like him and take over martial arts. So they had a whole bunch of story beats, but they went with this Allspark thing that didn't make any sense whatsoever. Kind of to move on to the mechanics, that was like a comeback system, which really didn't work well because it was time based, and most people would just weigh it out or just block, and if you couldn't beat your opponent within the allotted time, you end up losing the fight, which was dumb. Another issue I had with it was if one character gets knocked out, that was the end of the round. So you had to like force switch between the two, as opposed to like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where you had to knock out all three characters in order to assure your victory. And then last but not least, the gems. Oh my god, I think it was the gems that kind of killed it for me, and I think it killed it for the rest of the community. Simply because they were supposed to give you an edge in battle, but they kind of had like a, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, they had like a gotcha system associated with them. So you could have had shitty gems while your opponent had better gems, which gave them an ultimate edge over you. If you're skilled enough, you could still beat them, but you know, it was really frustrating to take on opponents who had like, oh, I'm gonna raise your health, your HP bar, or I'm gonna raise attack when I'm down, you know, things like that. Overall, I think the game was fun. It was interesting, but it died pretty fast. Not so much because of the story beats, which I was annoyed with, but more so the mechanics of the gem system and the whole matrix of leadership shit. I really don't remember what it was called. I think it was Pandora, if I'm not mistaken. That Pandora mechanic kind of killed it. And I think the game would have lasted longer if they had a mode that was dedicated to players who only wanted to fight one on one without gems, but they didn't incorporate that, so it died. I wish they made another game. They were supposed to do another spin-off of Tekken Cross Street Fighter, but I think because this kind of plummeted.
Yeah, I think the sales were not great, so they kind of scrapped the Tekken Cross Street Fighter.
Yeah, the sales weren't great, and I was looking forward to seeing Street Fighter characters on a 3D plane. Not like Street Fighter EX3 or the EX series, but more so from a Tekken base, because I want to see how their juggling system would be, how their combos would work, how their inputs with projectiles, like how all of that would work. But they gave us a teaser with Tekken 6 by putting Akuma in the game. So that's kind of a slap in the face because he works really well in the game, but I don't think we'll ever see any other Street Fighter characters within the Tekken realm. So that was my
Probably
first
not.
select. Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, that was my first selection. It was a game that showed promise, but it kind of failed in the end, unfortunately. But hopefully we see a better, an updated version of it someday. I know I'm asking for too much. I know it's not going to happen, but you know,
I mean, maybe Street Fighter 6 is doing well. Tekken 7 is on the 7, right? Or 8? Or
8.
8. Tekken 8 is on the horizon. So they're both in good spots. Maybe.
Yeah,
I've learned to not say never with half the shit that's been announced in the past couple months and weeks.
that's absolutely true. You're absolutely right about that. That's why I'm like, there's a glimmer of hope. However, I don't want to give my hopes up.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah, because you'll die. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
But yeah, that was my my first entry.
Yeah, I don't see there being another Street Fighter Cross Tekken game. I think the concept was great. I remember being real hype about it when I first saw it. When I first saw the Ryu and Kazuya, you know, it wasn't really gameplay. It was like a teaser, where Ryu threw like a few punches and Kazuya threw a few punches, and then that was it. Just seeing that was like, oh my god, like they're doing it right. But yeah, it was just too many mishaps, and then also the game came out I think at a poor time, like Capcom was like kind of cannibalizing their own fighting games because they were releasing too close together.
Yeah, I
So it
think
was just
Marvel
bad
vs.
planning.
Capcom 3 was
Yeah,
released like shortly
a
before or after.
a year before that, and then Ultimate I think came out a few months after Cross Street
I
Fighter or
think
something like
so.
that. Like it's a blur, but they
Yeah.
all come out really close together, and then Street Fighter 4 had its expansions and whatnot. So yeah. So anyway, my first one is a positive one, and that is going to be Monster Hunter World. When that game first, so for context, before Monster Hunter World was officially a thing, I was convinced, and I think many of us were convinced that Monster Hunter Generations was going to be kind of like the last hurrah for Monster Hunter, because the games they perform well enough to solidify a position in the in North America, which was great for me and great for those who enjoyed Monster Hunter. But it was never like a household name. It never really moved systems like that, at least not in North America. And so when I remember when the conference was happening, the Sony conference, I was getting late. I was getting out of work late, and I was watching the conference on my phone. I was in the train underground, and I remember watching the trailer, like just the first few seconds of the trailer, and I remember just seeing the hunter kind of like traverse through the forest or whatever, the vines, all that.
Yeah.
And I saw the greatsword, and I was like, no fucking way. Like I couldn't believe it. And then the insignia on the greatsword kind of looked like something Monster Hunter related. I was like, whoa, no way. And as the trailer kept going and they just showed the full hunter walking around, I'm like, are they really doing a Monster Hunter, or is this like something else that just kind of looks like Monster Hunter? And then what confirmed it, like solidified it, was when they first showed Raphalos in the trailer, because when the hunter is first hunting down Anjanath, which this was Anjanath's first appearance, so I knew it was Monster Hunter, but I didn't know it was Monster Hunter. If that made sense.
Yeah.
I was like, is this like a weird reboot or something? I don't know. And then Raphalos comes in and he just fireballs everybody or whatever. And I remember seeing Raphalos and go, oh my god, they're doing Monster Hunter on a home console. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not even kidding you. My eyes were watering because I couldn't believe it. I was just like, this is amazing. And that's a game that it's before we started recording. I wanted to watch it again to kind of refresh my memory, and Esoteric was like, damn, it makes me want to play again. And I go, yeah. Like, that's how great that game is. And that game, as a whole, did not disappoint. It one could argue that Monster Hunter World wasn't perfect because, some of the new monsters were kind of like subpar, and it was lacking in content for a little bit. There was a spell in time where like the content was a little dry. But that game, I mean, to me, it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. I loved it because it was so polished. It was so clean, and it was Monster Hunter as far as like old. It had old school like mechanics or whatever, and they did new stuff obviously, but like it still had the soul of Monster Hunter in my opinion. Some people might argue that it didn't, and that's fine. But to me, it was like, this is definitely a Monster Hunter game. But it added so much more, and it was on home console, and I was able to play online seamlessly with my friends, which was awesome. It took me back. It was a way to stay connected with my hunting group. That this was a point in time in our lives where we started to kind of split a little bit. And before that time period, we used to hang out all the time in person, and we used to play Monster Hunter together. So for the franchise to evolve kind of with us in a weird way and be available on home consoles, but also be a fantastic Monster Hunter game in its own right, was like, it was just awesome. It was a great string of years for Monster Hunter World, and the reveal was awesome. The game was great. It delivered, and it's a game I can always go back to. And even if I never do, I have so many good memories of that game. So yeah, Monster Hunter World, top tier, S tier in my book.
Yeah, we were actually roomies at the time.
Correct.
When it came out, I remember you coming home and he's like, "Did you see that shit?" I'm like, "Yes, I did. I did." You know, and it's something about I don't know, I don't know what it is, but when we were rewatching the trailer, like I felt my paws literally raising. And I don't know if it's because I'm reliving the moments that we shared playing Monster Hunter, or if it's just my, you know, me gushing about my first impressions when I first seen the trailer. Like, I don't know either or. They're both good sensations, but you know when a game is good when the trailer has your paws just raising. You feel like that goddamn tingle at the back of your neck. Like, holy shit, this is hypeness right now. And I was like, yeah, it was an amazing game.
Yeah, because I definitely thought Monster Hunter was done. I was like, all right, 3DS is done. The Switch, like there wasn't anything announced for the Switch at the time.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, we're not even getting Generations Ultimate. That's why we all played it. Fun fact, we all played it on Don't Let Nintendo Hear, hacked 3DSs, because we was like, we're never gonna see Generate or Double Cross in Japan. But later on we did get it for the Switch, but we didn't know that. So yeah, I like Kong. I was like, yeah, I think Monster Hunter's either done or a very long hiatus. Very
Or
long.
just
'Cause-
stuck in Japan, because it was still
Yeah,
doing well in
yeah.
Japan.
Yeah, I
But
was the optimist. I was the one that's like, yeah, we're getting another one, guys, and y'all would just look at me like I'm stupid. Like, yeah, we're not getting shit.
Hey, but look at that. Monster Hunter is one of their key franchises for Capcom now. So will we still be infatuated with Monster Hunter? I don't know. At least for me, I don't know. But will Monster Hunter continue? Yes. um,
Yeah, it's kind of tipping over the balance, as
we'll
of right
see. I
now.
mean, if they do another World 2 or a game in World's universe, or even a different game, just kind of like with the aesthetic of World, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
so that was
Monster
my
Hunter World,
number
yeah.
one. But yeah, you guys can hit us with another one.
Okay, so I'll go next. We'll keep it kind of round robin style, I guess. My next one is another one that we watched before the podcast. I didn't really need to watch it. I just wanted to watch it again. So this one is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. So a little backstory. Over the like 3 years ago, I got into Warhammer. It's pretty much I just read the novels and watch kind of like the fan made stuff and play some of the games. I haven't fucked around with the miniatures because that's how you lose your house. So when I saw there was a Space Marine 2 game, I knew there was one that came out, but it only came out for PC at the time, and I'm not a PC gamer, so I didn't really I couldn't play it at the time, and I didn't really know about 40K at the time. But when this one was announced, and later on at the end of the trailer, I found out it's announced for PlayStation 5 and current gen, I guess, consoles. I was like, oh shit! Well, now I gotta play. This is kind of it's like justifying a PlayStation 5. So it's like, all right, but the trailer was so 40K, and it's hard to explain to people because 40K is just like such a vast. There's so much lore in it. But if we just look at the trailer, it just shows like this alien race called Tyranids. I know that means nothing to have to, but if you know, you know. They're attacking an Imperial world. You see like the Imperial Guard, which were the guys in the green armor. They were trying to fight back against them with essentially laser guns, and they were struggling, like they were being slaughtered literally. And then like the Astartes, the Space Marines, they just kind of plop down in their super heavy armor, and they just go to town on the Tyranids. They just fucking wreck their shit, and like that was a perfect. And that was like a pretty short scene, all things considered, but that perfectly encapsulated the 40K universe. And if you know Space Marine 2, you play as the Space Marines. You play as the Astartes. So then they showed a little bit of gameplay. They showed them mowing down Tyranids. They showed like the world being invaded. So this was one of the trailers for me anyway that if like someone who has no affinity for 40K was like, they might not have shown a lot because they showed snippets of gameplay, but not like long gameplay sessions. Not like Street Fighter where they showed a whole match, or in Kong's case, the other game he talked about, the
World.
World, where they showed like a kind of a hunt. This one just showed quick snippets of gameplay, but I did buy into the hype for that one. So because I'm a huge 40K fan. Luckily, spoiler alert, later on down the line they lengthier gameplay footage, so I'm more confident in the game now. But since the topic, the focus of discussion is on reveals of the trailer or first reveals of a game, 40K Space Marine 2, sorry, got me hype as fuck. And I haven't jumped into the next gen swimming pool yet, but I probably will for that game because I'm not a huge PC gamer. So the fact that it's coming on PS5 is all right. Well, I guess it's time to maybe seriously consider getting a PS5. So
Let's go.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna get one
I've been
eventually.
waiting.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. No, I'll probably have it before Space Marine comes out. It's not set to come out to sometime near before the end of 2024. So I'm assuming December, January, obvious. Probably not January, probably December the latest. So yeah, man, Space Marine 2. I am hyped. That trailer made me more hype. It just solidified the hype. So yeah, that's my second one. Space Marine 2. Go buy it. 40K is cool. Anyway, I'll pass it off to you. I'll stop shilling.
Yeah, I'm guessing you mentioned the alien race Tyranid. I guess they kind of got that inspired by tyranny because it's like an imperial army, and I don't know. I don't know much about. I don't know anything about 40K.
Pretty much like the real quick TLDR is Tyranids are essentially just like space aids. They're just like creatures that go from planet to planet, devour it of all life entirely, and move to a different planet.
Oh, like the flood, basically.
Sort of, yeah, yeah. And obviously, you don't want that on your planets with humans on it because that's bad for business. So, but they're very primal. That's their only objective is to kind of feed and like grow. They don't want to rule the galaxy. They're just like food. I'm gonna eat it. So, that's why there are a lot for humans to handle because that's what they do. They just swarm and devour. So
nice. I did see the trailer a couple of times, and it definitely piqued my interest. So I may be on that 40K as well. That's definitely a good entry. For me, I would say this trailer really got me hype, and the game fortunately lived up to its expectations. And I would have to say the reboot of God of War. Like, for those of you God of War fans, I personally think that the series was pretty great. The gameplay could have used some work because it was a lot of square triangle being used, which made the game fairly easy. And there was a lot of like reaction commands or whatever, just to subdue certain enemies, which at that time it definitely was absolutely redundant. You killed every troll the same way, you killed certain enemies in a particular way, and it just really got redundant. But with this God of War reboot, with Kratos coming out with a beard, it's like, holy shit, represent for the ball guys out here. Thank you. I appreciate it. It looked, when I first saw the trailer, I didn't know what it was because it started off with as we now know, Atreus. He was young, he was just playing or whatever. Then you heard the deep voice, He's like, boy, boy, he kept saying it over and over again, but I couldn't tell who that was because at that time I believe the voice actor changed during that time. So it's I think his name is Christopher Judge.
Yeah.
He's the one that's doing the reboot for Kratos, which is good. The previous guy was amazing as well, but Christopher Judge really nails it for an older Kratos. But yeah, I couldn't tell what it was. I thought it was like a new IP. It's just a new game that's going to be on the PS4. But then, as the dialogue kept going, kept going, and then Kratos stepped out of the shadow, with I guess you could say it's not really a new look. He just had a beard and so on, but he looked really dope, and whatnot. And then what really caught me off guard was that him. I assumed that it was his son. It didn't really say in the trailer, because he kept like saying yes sir, this and third. He kept talking about his mother, but it could have been just some kid that he took a liking to or whatever. And then eventually, as you play the game, you find out it's his son or whatever. So, moving along with the trailer, he's telling Atreus to hunt for deer. He goes along. Then he's sporting a brand new weapon. I was like, holy shit, he doesn't have his blades of
Yeah, I
chaos
remember
anymore.
a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is going on? He does not have his blades of chaos. What is going on? He has an axe. Where does this come from? And you know, while playing it, you realize that he's dealing with Norse mythology, which I'm not really well, I don't know much about. I know more about Greek mythology than I do Norse mythology. So I don't know if that axe is symbolic of any Norse god or any Norse story. But eventually you find out it's his wife's axe. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but anyway, they're going on a hunt, and then kicks off the gameplay. So the gameplay is completely different. It's over the shoulder. He's swinging the axe. He's throwing it. He's calling it back. He's using his bare hands to subdue enemies. He's just doing a lot of shit. It's just crazy, and it's actual gameplay. Like he beat up some troll on the wall with his bare knuckles. It's like, yes, this is the gruesomeness I'm looking for. Then he still has his Kratos character, where he's yelling at the boy for pretty much messing up and fucking shit up or whatever because they're going on a hunt. He shot the deer prematurely, and Kratos is yelling at him. But what I did love about the trailer was that it showed the gameplay, and it also showed Kratos trying to be a little softer, trying to kind of like relinquish that pent up rage that he had in Greece or whatever, and he's trying to be a little more calmer with his son in terms of teaching him. You notice it as he's yelling at the boy like only fire, and then he stops himself and he's like really like low, calm, and saying like only fire when I tell you to. And then there was another moment where he's kind of conflicted because he's not used to embracing anyone, where he's after they complete the hunt, he goes to touch his son, but then he stops himself and he just takes out the knife from the deer and gives it to his son. So it was like nice little subtleties for those God of War fans. Kratos did have a family before, but we never seen that side of him because his family was the whole premise of the God of War story was that his family was taken from him. So to kind of see him, become this guy who's like full of rage and frustrated and revenge, for him to try to like start a new family and try to console his son, it was a nice like change of pace. And he, because this game came out in 2018 or whatever.
Yeah.
To see that in Ragnarok, which recently released not too long ago, to see him actually get better at fostering his emotions and building friendships was pretty cool. So yeah, it was an amazing trailer. The game lived up to my expectations. The gameplay was far superior than what we got in the first iteration, the first trilogy of God of War, and now he transitioned from killing Greek gods to Norse gods. Like, it's amazing. I wonder if they're gonna make another set of God of War games where he's attacking Hindu gods or some shit. Like, who knows? Who knows where it's going to go now? You know what I'm saying? But I, much like Monster Hunter, I thought Kratos was pretty much finished. He is one of their most like dominating franchises for PlayStation. Like, he really is. So I was under the assumption that they'll just make, kind of like squeeze in segments of God of War. Like, they had the PSP versions that were kind of like in betweeners of certain games. Like, there's probably one that was a prequel. There was one that was between 1 or 2. I don't remember the actual
Chains of
sequence.
Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta.
Yeah, and did he have another one, Ascension or something like that?
Ascension was, I believe either before 3 or after 3. That was on PS3, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
So yeah, he had a couple of in-betweeners, but I thought he was only subjected to, the Greek mythology and going through navigating that whole story or whatnot. But for him to go to a whole completely different world, fight completely different gods that he's not accustomed to, it was a nice change. Unexpected change, but a nice one at that. And then the gameplay again, and just him adjusting his characteristics to be a little more humane as opposed to like just a killing drone was a nice welcome as well. So that was my next entry, God of War. Great game. If you haven't played it, pick it up. It's probably like maybe $15-20. Pretty sure it's the greatest hit. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Good entry. I did notice I noticed it. I don't know if I noticed it the first time, but I definitely noticed it the second time he watched it before recording. Where he went to touch his son's shoulder, but then kind of like went back on that and just grabbed the knife out of the deer's body. I was like, oh, that's a really nice like little touch that they put there. It's really cool. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So anyway, back to Monster Hunter World, right? So I'm kidding.
I'm surprised. Sorry to cut you off, Kong, but I'm surprised 4 wasn't your entry, because that completely shifted the Monster Hunter gameplay that we know today.
Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate or Monster Hunter 4 Generation 4 is definitely. I mean, dude, if we're being honest here, I could just talk Monster Hunter the entire podcast. I could talk about each Monster Hunter, entry past like. I started in not Generations. I started in Generation 2 of Monster Hunter, which is Monster Hunter 2 / Freedom Unite. Past that, like, I have memories of each generation of Monster Hunter, Generation 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I could, right? But
Trying to be fair.
I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to diversify my entries here. Something I didn't mention before about the Monster Hunter trailer though was like the way they the music for that fucking franchise is just so fucking good.
Oh yeah.
And when they ended the trailer with just the main music with the hunter just like fighting and using these different weapons. My favorite part was the heavy machine gun or the heavy bow gun and him just going off.
Like they had machine guns in this game?
Yeah, it was just like, what the fuck is... Anyway, my second entry isn't Monster Hunter again. It's actually Resident Evil. So this is a 2-in-1. So, because they're tied together. So Resident Evil 2, the reveal trailer for that was pretty eye-opening for me, and that game, as we all know now, is a fucking masterpiece of a Resident Evil game. We're talking about Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for that and being fucking like, whoa, they're actually doing it and it looks true to form. And of course, we know now that the game has been out for years now that the game is fantastic. However, my true entry is Resident Evil 3 because Resident Evil 3 happens to be my personal favorite Resident Evil game from the original trilogy, and I was hype because of how well they did Resident Evil 2, and so I was fully bought in to Resident Evil 3. Even though the trailer wasn't like particularly amazing on its own, it was a fine trailer, but what sold me on it was the fact that RE2's trailer was amazing, the game was even better. They're doing 3, okay, like they can't fuck this up, right? Well, they did somehow. From my understanding, it was a different development team that worked on 3, and they had a very short time frame to develop the game. So, unfortunately, my favorite RE game got the shaft and came out basically half baked. Now, was the game terrible? I wouldn't go that far. I think the game is a competent game. It's kind of like Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2, compared to the other Dark Souls, is pretty mid-tier, but by itself, it's a fine game, right? Resident Evil 3 kind of occupies a very similar space where it's like, it's alright, it's fine.
I think it's similar to my first entry, Kong, where it missed a couple of story beats that made Resident Evil 3.
But not just the story beats, right? Because even if you look back, I don't know if you played the demo when the game was coming out and they released the demo.
Oh, I did.
Even playing the demo, I was just like, okay, this feels pretty good, because the demo was the best part of the game.
Oh my god!
After playing the full game, the demo was like the best part of the game, which is like you're in the city, Nemesis coming after you, and you have to just survive and just find a way to evade him or fight him or whatever.
Okay.
That was the demo, and the demo was awesome. And I was like, oh, you got me. Like, I'm convinced. And the way the demo was, like, if you played the original, the demo was basically like nearing the middle or nearing the end of the first act, but like nearing the middle of the overall game, where you meet Mikhail and the train cart or whatever.
Yeah.
You've already established kind of like a rapport with Carlos or whatever, and the whole Brad stuff is behind you. So it's like, okay, this is like the end of the first act, but like closer to the middle of the game, close to like Act 2, which is like the clock tower, which we never got, by the way.
What?
Yeah, the clock tower is not in the game.
Yeah, I would like to preface what I said, because it was, my comment was based off of conversations I've had with people, and they were stating that the story beats was a big miss, that they omitted a lot of stuff, but I didn't know that they actually omitted a lot of like.
No, there are entire sections that are gone. They're not in the game. The clock tower is visible. You can see the clock tower in a cutscene, but it's not an interactable, piece of geography in the game.
Oh, so, that is crazy. That was one of my favorite like puzzles in the clock tower.
Yeah, well, there ain't no puzzles in this fucking game.
Where they were barely puzzles.
Barely puzzles.
Constitute them as puzzles.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh my god.
And yeah, the what makes Resident Evil 3 so special to me and to many people, I think, is Nemesis and his unrelenting fucking, pursuit of you, right? And the fact that he can kind of pop up anywhere. At least that's what it felt like, playing back in the 90s. Even now, I feel like if you go back and if you played it for the first time now, it would still kind of feel that way. To anybody who's new to like that particular entry, it does feel spontaneous, even though it's scripted. I know, I understand, but it did feel spontaneous, and I'm sure it would feel that way to anybody who played it for the first time. That they stripped it away. Like you only get that experience in that little segment. That is the demo, by the way. That's it. After that, Nemesis becomes like a weird dog or something, and he's not the same. And I'm like, and even his boss battles is just weird and like super scripted. Feels like a no shot at Zelda, but feels like a Zelda boss battle. And it's like, you know, oh, shoot the grenades in this area and blow him up and he'll flip over, and then you could shoot the giant red orb on his face or whatever. It's like, this is not Resident Evil 3. What the fuck did they do? Like, anyway.
I do remember him transforming in the original, but
He
you're
did
saying
have
that they
forms.
expedited it?
But they gave him a form that he didn't have before.
Okay.
Which is I call the dog form. And they gave it to him super early.
Okay.
Basically the part where, I mean, we've all played RE3 here, original. The part where you're at the clock tower, and he blows up the helicopter that's coming to save you.
Yeah.
And he basically, like, his top is like burnt off, and he just has like a bunch of tentacles coming out of him, and you fight him in like that garden area or that courtyard area with all, you know, it's like just fire everywhere because the helicopter blew up.
Yeah, before what's his face meet up with you to like
before Carlos saves you, and then you play as Carlos, right? That's
Yeah.
Act 2 in the original game, or at least that's how I would structure it. That's like Act 2. Act 3 is when you regain control of Jill and you're like you're headed to the park or whatever, and then the underground facility. Anyway, that part is gone, and that form is not in the game. It just gets replaced with this dog form, and then that's just Nemesis the rest of the game.
The rest. Oh wow.
Yeah, he's just this dog now, and it's just like, okay, sure. So it's like, it just doesn't hit the same way, and they took a lot of liberties with this game, in my opinion. I do think they did some good things. Like some other characters got some FaceTime that really didn't get FaceTime before. Like I think his name was Marcus, one of the other Umbrella soldiers. He got a lot of FaceTime, and I liked his development. I was like, oh wait, this is like a nice addition. But I would have also liked the original content on top of this. But anyway, and the trailer I thought did really good things. Like, you know, when you first play RE3 original, the game starts off with just Jill coming out of the burning building and off you go, right? Whereas in the trailer, they were showing her running away from Nemesis, and then coming out of the burning building, which was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Even though you don't encounter Nemesis in the original that early, that's not why she blew out of the building, right? Because your first encounter with Nemesis is at the RPD station, which they did change entirely, by the way. You don't explore the RPD station as Jill at all. You play as Carlos in that section,
Carlos,
which is incorrect, or not, at least not canon with the original. They took a lot of liberties. A lot of liberties.
I think they wanted to add more Carlos sections because he only had the hospital in the original, and 2 remake, much like the original 2, had Claire and Leon, so they weren't going to give Carlos a campaign, so they gave him another level.
They could have done that, but still keep the original content. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not against it.
The park was completely removed. The only other boss, which granted wasn't the most extreme boss, it was a giant worm, was gone. That whole thing was gone.
Yeah, the R form is taken out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Raccoon City newspaper. Well, like I always feel like I have to preference this because then someone will come and be like, "Well, it wasn't that important," and I can't really argue against that because you didn't spend too much time at the Raccoon City newspaper.
No,
you did spend a decent amount of time in the park, so that's why I'm salty about the park. The park, there was like some story information that you learned. There was an enemy type, the frogs. The frogs are gone.
Wow.
I believe those frogs were in there. They were like were the frogs in there?
No, they were in there, but they were in the sewer section of the remake.
Oh, right. They made them those big white thing. Yeah, okay. So they were there, but they were also in the park. But it's gone now. Bye, park. Fuck your park.
That's crazy.
I'll be a little devil's advocate. Well, the world was going through some shit during its development.
Not true, because the game came out in early 2020.
Yeah, but wasn't that during the height of like lockdowns and whatnot?
Yeah, but that would
when
mean
the
that they were
game was coming
developing it
out.
in 2019 or 18. So
Yeah, that pandemic excuse doesn't fly because the game was already gold and ready to ship, or almost ready to ship before COVID took over the world.
Well, then here's the more than likely reason: that sweet multiplayer game that was released alongside that may or may not have
that
taken
was
development.
packaged. No, that was packaged with the game because they knew that RE3 by itself wasn't a complete game. It wasn't to the standard of like the RE2 remake. It just wasn't, you know. So
yeah, and then RE4 came out, and that's a significantly better game.
that game is fantastic. RE4 was awesome, right? So
that up.
Damn,
you know,
poor 3. I mean,
poor 3, man.
It was the spin-off that ended up becoming a main title and then got shafted in the modern year.
And they're not gonna go back and undo it, right? They're just gonna leave it be.
We're on to Code Veronica next. Mark my words.
Oh God.
Code Veronica or 5. I could see 5 being a thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
And then we'll just re-release 6 in HD or something. I don't know.
Code Veronica was so bad. I had it for the Dreamcast, and
I don't think it was
like
bad.
I didn't like it.
Steve Burns can go to hell. That fucking character is annoying.
Oh yeah,
shit.
he was a part of the problem too. But
Yeah, I don't think Code Veronica's bad. I just found it weird that like the main character shifted halfway through the game and then went back. It should have just stayed.
You talking about the Ashfords?
No, it's you played as Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
It became Chris's game for a hot minute. Like just
yeah.
As the kiddos say, let Claire cook. Let her have her game.
Well, she needed help, right? She was like, "I need your help. I'm stuck on this island."
Not for nothing. Code Veronica has one of the most badass fucking opening cinematic cutscenes in any game I've ever seen. When she dropped the gun, picked it up, and then like shot the. I remember seeing. I was like, "Yo, that game is crazy!" Like I was hyped.
And then Claire became a babysitter in the other game. She was the main character in.
You know. Gotta say the female characters get the short end of the stick in the Resident Evil universe.
Thanks for tuning into our Resident Evil podcast.
Sorry.
Unless you're Ada. Unless you're Ada. You get, you know.
Well, Ada doesn't even have her own game. So
that's true, but she's good when she is playable.
She has a DLC. So she kinda has half a game.
I guess. Tell that to the voice actress that played her in 4. Jesus Christ, what a performance! What a performance!
Didn't play New 4, so I gotta see what y'all.
You should absolutely do so and stream it because that game is awesome.
It is an actual. It's a really good.
It's very really
good game. Yeah, it's really fun.
Cool. So, any other final like honorable mentions you guys want to throw out there before we go?
Yeah, I'll throw out one more honorable mention. This one is new, like pretty new. Dragon's Dogma 2. Much like how we kind of felt with Monster Hunter, I didn't think we'd ever see a Dragon's Dogma. That game came out 2012. That's by today's standards, that's old school. But it was such a great game. It just felt like an old school game where the story was there, but it was all about you adventuring and going into dungeons and just like fighting these big creatures and working on your class. Like in a world where everything wants to be Final Fantasy 16 and be some fucking movie that you play, Dragon's Dogma was a game. So, I was like, okay, cool. I'll always have Dragon's Dogma. It released on the Switch, so it's like Capcom's version of Skyrim. It's been on everything at this point. But I was like, all right, cool. I'll have Dragon's Dogma to play. I was sure we'd never see a sequel at all. And then very recently, they showed that, yes, Dragon's Dogma 2 is a thing. So it's like, okay, well, fucking Space Marine kind of was nudging me. Now I gotta get one because I want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. And it's only on Xbox, PS5, and PC. So PS4, Switch, not gonna happen. So I'm hyped that there is. They showed a little bit of gameplay. They showed like how the mage works, the magic archer. They showed some new monsters. They showed a lot. They showed pretty big monsters. Like they had a Medusa and they had like a big, not gargoyle, but a big like big harpy, like a massive harpy, and I hope those are actual bosses and not NPCs, because Dragon's Dogma had big creatures, but they were kind of few. They only had a couple big creatures. Dark Arisen, the expansion, added a little bit more. So I'm hoping for like big boss battles in this one. So
Oh man, I've never played Dragon's Dogma 1. That and Dragon Age was the two games I wanted to play. Never got to play them.
Dragon Age, Inquisition was pretty good. I enjoyed it, but Dragon's Dogma, you should absolutely go back and check out. That game is well worth a revisit.
yeah,
Okay.
it's really fun. It's fun. And then now you get Dark Arisen. That was a whole expansion which added a new area, new enemies, new end game. So now you even have more stuff to do. So okay, my honorable mention, Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm glad it's still alive. It looks modern, it looks pretty, it looks very aesthetically pleasing. I hope the gameplay matches that. If they keep the same spirit as the original one, but just add to it, maybe add some new classes, maybe update like the pawn system. I don't want to get into that. We could save that for another time. But update the pawn system and kind of like, add new features to it. I'd be down. It to me, it'd be my personal game of the year. That might be premature, but we'll see when we get there. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. Looking forward to it.
Okay. I don't know much about Dragon's Dogma. I know I was super interested when I first heard about the first one. So yeah, I wrote it down so I can pick it up. If it, I trust you guys' judgment. So my honorable mentions. One is a game that I'm pretty sure we've all played. Another one is a game that's supposedly coming out that looks really good. I don't know if I'm gonna get bamboozled, but we shall see. But the first one is Metal Gear Solid 4. That game, the trailer was amazing. I remember seeing Hideo doing a gameplay trailer, and it was so freaking cool. You had Old Snake. You had this new feature called Octo Camo, where you can stay next to like a substance or like a structure, and your suit becomes camo of that structure. It kind of mimics the like the wallpaper or the flooring of whatever structure you're standing next to. I've seen him. What did they do? A funny moment was within the trailer. He was standing next to a statue that resembled like the creation of Adam. And then he kind of like was holding the creation of Adam's dick and like posing. That was really funny. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that.
No.
I don't.
Check out the trailer if you have it. But he was literally doing that in a pose. So fucking funny. Back to like more gameplay. They had he was able to utilize more than just like the box. So he was in like a oil drum, and he was able to like roll into it to attack enemies. He had like a stun knife. Another one that was pretty funny. He had like a girly mag book that he can kind of like review or whatever, and put it down on the floor so it can like pique the soldiers' interest and distract them. Like, that game was so freaking amazing. My only issue with it was that I feel like it had way too many cutscenes.
It did. Yeah, it did.
I remember like one of the cutscenes, which was it was absolutely amazing. I loved it, where he was like crawling through this heated enclosure, and his like suit was getting all busted to shit, and he was like really. And I'm here like rooting for him. Think that shit was like 30 minutes of rooting.
Oh, that actually wasn't a cutscene. I mean, kind of.
Oh, it wasn't.
I mean, you just pushed forward on the analog stick, so you could kind of say it maybe was, but that was gameplay. You had to that's what made it worse for me, because you had to keep going forward, and it was the player doing it. It wasn't a cutscene where you can kind of like, oh, that's rough, but no, it was like this giant microwave. Yeah, you have to keep making Snake go through that. So don't be a bitch. Keep going forward.
I I really don't remember pushing forward, but it would make sense. It would absolutely make sense that you had to do it. I guess to kind of have you get more of the character's feeling, Snake's feeling or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man, that game was. I
it
like
was
that game.
I love the game. I absolutely do, and I'm loving the fact that they're remaking 1 to 3. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Just to be not remaking it, but they're making the bundle accessible on modern consoles. So
Oh, okay. 3 is
yeah.
only getting a remake. Delta,
yeah,
right?
that's the only one
Okay.
that's getting a remake. The one that they announced at the Nintendo Direct was Switch will be getting 1, 2 substance and 3 substance, along with like the digital comic that came out with Metal Gear. So just clarification on that. But 3 is definitely, or Delta or whatever, 3 is definitely getting a remake. That's ground up.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, Metal Gear Triangle.
But yeah, one of the things I do know for a fact was a cutscene was when he finally met Big Boss, and I like the cutscene. I love the story that he was stating about like how everything originated and blah 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 this and the third. But then he kept almost dying, and it became like almost like a 20 to 30 minute long cutscene. And I'm like, is he gonna die now? Is he gonna die now? Then he attempted to smoke, and he dropped the lighter, and then I thought he was dead then, but then Snake gave him the cigar to smoke, and I'm like, shit, this guy just needs to goddamn die
He was
already.
like, "Oh, he's doing it for his dad. Look at that. Thanks,
It's like, oh my
thanks,
god,
son."
like, can we please? We get it now, or whatever. But overall, it was an amazing game. The next game that's an honorable mention. I'm just gonna keep it real short. Never played the first one, but I've heard a lot of it's gotten a lot of shit for it, especially from Kong. But this new iteration is looking this new iteration is
I know
looking
where this is
amazing.
going. I know.
I'm dying to play it. Like, it's coming out with a collector's edition, but I'm a little apprehensive because I don't want to spend money on a shit ass game. But then I'm afraid because the game is
Oh,
probably
okay.
gonna be
Now I know what
good.
it is. All right.
The game is probably gonna be good, so I'm gonna be out of the collector's edition. It looks really fucking sweet. It's Lords of the Fallen, man. Lords of the Fallen looks really good. Like, I can't lie, it looks.
They're
I
like
Mhm.
they're like Lords of the Fallen for PlayStation 4. Nah, I never heard of it. This is our first game. What are you talking about? What?
Listen, I've never played it, so I'm not stained by what was left of, like, what's left of Kong or whatever, his memories of it. But this particular one
Nightmares.
looks really good. It looks really good. It looks really sick. I
Yeah,
think they had a gameplay.
cancer is also sickening.
I don't
Sorry,
know,
go
man.
ahead. Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, like, I there isn't much to say about the game, because one, I didn't play the previous one, but again, I do trust you guys' judgment because you guys played it, and
I didn't play it. I just seen reviews and I heard Kong talk about it. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I'm just gonna replay Dark Souls. Thank you very much.
I thought you played it as well.
No, I did not. I saw enough though. But I will say, in your defense, it is piquing my interest because they do have an interesting mechanic. I don't know if you saw it, where it's like there's like a dark world and a light world,
Yes.
and like the environment will physically change, and you have like a lantern that can manipulate the worlds. And they showed them like, oh, there's no bridge here, but if you shine, there's a bridge, and it's like if you would do things in the light world, it affects the shadow world. That's an interesting concept.
It really is. It
I
kinda
don't know
reminds me of-
how deeply they'll use it, but it's an interesting concept.
it is really interesting, and like, the characters look very Dark Soul-esque. I love that kind of theme. It looks very like medieval, Celtic like and shit. The monsters look super grotesque and big. So I'm like, God damn it! I'm so I want to play it. I want to get the collectors, but I if I if I spend all that money on a shitty game, I'm going to be really upset. I'll probably do a video ranting about it.
Well, the statue
But
looks really cool. Like the collector's edition statue looks dope. So I mean,
Yeah,
if you do get it, you'll have a cool statue.
Yeah, you could just say it's a night guy from Night World. Yeah.
It's going to be a reminder of a ultimately shitty game. You know, who wants to?
I mean,
I don't
listen,
know.
I bought the collector's edition for Honor, and that game was not good. But I have the statue. The statue looks cool, even though her sword broke
Okay.
off. But whatever, it still looks cool.
That's that Ubisoft quality.
Yeah, well,
No, but that's pretty much my honorable mentions. One game that was definitively good, we know for a fact. Another game that's out in the open, we're not sure, but I'm hoping I'm right. I'm really looking forward to experiencing this game. Little apprehensive on the day one buy, let alone the collectors, but we shall see. We shall see. Maybe if I have some extra income, I'll probably push it. But I'm just hoping that the icing on the cake will be that the game is just as good as the collector's edition, or vice versa. Whichever one will be the cake, and whichever. I just want the goddamn game. Hopefully, it's good.
give the man some cake and give him a game.
Yes.
We'll see.
All right, so I only have one honorable mention, very short. Armor Core 6. Can't wait to play with some robots.
Oh, yeah.
There is a collector's edition. It's only available on the Bandai Namco website. I kind of want it, but it's 300 bones, and I'm just like,
Oh my God.
I just bought my Fatalis statue, so it's like, I can't really. I could do it, right? But
Should you?
Should I? I really shouldn't. So I don't think I will.
What's the
But I'm
release
definitely
date
gonna
for that?
August 25th. So
Oh no! I thought it was like next year. No.
no, that's
That is
coming
so
out
close.
very, very close.
I don't
So
have a PS5. No.
it'll be on PS4. Don't worry.
Oh, sweet. Pleb Station wins again.
Sweet. Yeah, so anyways, Armor Core 6. I've only ever played Armor Core 5. That's when I got into it. I tried to play 4, but I couldn't understand. I was too much of a dumbass.
None of us could understand.
And I wanted to try out the old ones. I had some for PS2, and I just never booted them up. And then I had sold my collection before I could try them. I do want to go back and play the old ones, but just they're kind of expensive now, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe later, maybe I'll emulate them. I don't know. But Armored Core 6,
say emulation is probably your best.
yeah,
bet.
I
They
might
are
just do
pricey.
that. But yeah, AC6, I'm definitely gonna get. I already pre-ordered 2 copies, one for me, one for my younger brother who also likes Armored Core. So
Nice.
that's gonna be my summer fall game. It comes out kind of close to Lies of P, which I do want to try, but I'm willing to pick up Lies of P later.
Yeah, I'd say Armored Core. I mean, Liza P might be a great game, but it's Armored Core, man.
I know what I'm getting with From Software. I trust them,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna buy that game day one, 100%.
Holy shit! Did you see the premium edition for Armor Core? It comes with like the figure and the garage. Ah, that shit is
That's got to be like $400 or $500 though, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think
Oh
I'm
my
good
God.
on that one.
I like Armored Core, but I don't love Armored Core.
I
yeah.
mean,
Again, I
ooh,
could do it, but I don't, and I also don't have space for it. I'm running out of space. I've ran out of space a long time ago. No more.
I love robots, so that's the thing. That's what's
Me
like,
too.
trying to get me.
We all love robots on this particular panel right now. So like,
Ooh, man, damn.
Nah, I can't. I'd rather spend that much on a gunpla. If I'm going to be personally honest.
That makes sense.
I will be buying the game. It'll probably be a day one for me as well.
Yeah,
It's
so,
absolutely going to be a day one for me.
yes. Armor Core is my like. I saw the trailer. I'm immediately in fact, the trailer, it was a reveal at the Game Awards, right? And we were all talking. We uploaded that video, so if you want to watch it, you can. Our first reaction, I called. I was like, "It's Armor Core," and Zeta was like, "There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way." And then they showed it, and he was like, "Oh my god!" I could hear him coming over the mics.
I mean, what was the last Armored Core 5 was like years ago. I
10
was
years
like,
ago, dude. 10
yeah, I'm like,
years ago.
they gave up on Armored Core. 4 wasn't that great. They had to release 4 Answer to make it playable. I don't know how well 5 did. I enjoyed my time with it, but I don't know sales numbers. I'm like, Armored Core just can't catch a break. But here we are.
But here we are. It's back, and let's see how it does. I hope it does well, but I don't know if it's gonna catch on as well as I hope, because it is. I think it is going to be a lot for people to handle, but we'll see.
I think it will. I think it will because it's a From Software game. They already know that From Software games are stigmaed with being difficult, and all the people that are not accustomed to playing difficult games and want to be included in that are going to buy it. They're going to complain about how hard it is, and then Armored Core would have ultimately gotten its sales. So, yeah, I think it's gonna do really well. It has the Soul series and Seki Soulsborne, as Gunnar would say, backing it up. So I think it's going to do really well in terms of sales.
I hope so, but time will tell. It does come out late August, so we will see. Anyway, that was a great conversation. Thank you guys for joining me in this particular topic. Thank you, Gunnar, for bringing it up. For those who have made it this far, thank you for your viewership. Thank you for listening. Hope you've found enjoyment in our banter about video game things. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to watch more content like this, subscribe. We do podcasts every single week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think about what we talked about, or maybe there's trailers that we haven't mentioned that disappointed you or met your expectations or even exceeded your expectations. We'd love to hear from you. Also, we have different social medias as well. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also run the Discord. There's also we have a TikTok. I don't know how active we are. I know Esoteric mostly puts stuff up on there, but we do have a TikTok as well for like short form content. We also run a Discord. I think I mentioned that. Esoteric streams on the main channel on Twitch, Logical Gamers TV, so go give him a follow. The link will be in the description down below. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he streams a variety of different kinds of games. The last few things he's played was he played a little Street Fighter, he played a little Zelda. What else have you played recently? You played a lot of indie games, right?
Yeah, a lot of indie titles. The most recent are Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Street Fighter 6.
But the indie games you play, like Ender Lilies, and you played this other one, Contrast, or what was it called?
9 Years of Shadow.
9 Years of Shadow. Okay.
Also went back and played Alice Madness Returns. So I play a variety of different games for you guys' entertainment.
He also plays party games as well, Splatoon, Smash Brothers. We did a party pummel session a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now. That was pretty fun. So definitely a variety streamer. Check him out, give him a follow, and support the channel. So with that being said, thank you guys for a great conversation. Thank you listeners for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.
Take care.